Discussion on police shootings and the controversy that's surrounding policing practices. I'm joined now by Cheryl Dorsey. She's a retired sergeant with the Los Angeles Police Department. Thank you so much for coming on again today. I want to talk about this ticketing issue because it is something that you hear time and again. I spent a lot of time in Ferguson and some time in Baltimore, and you would hear people say, I feel like we are being targeted, and not just that, but because we can't pay, we're going to jail. Is this the right way to police an area?
Absolutely not. And there's two things that you accomplish when you do that, aside from the money thing, is that you do keep a ready pool of people who you can put in jail at any point in time, right? Because I live in this area. You live in this area. I work in this area. And so if we have a history, and I know that you're one who may be out after hours when I don't want you out there as a police officer, and I see you out there, and I know that 2 months ago, I wrote you a ticket, there's a likelihood that you're going to have a warrant out, right? So all I've got to do is run you, and guess what? I pray to the warrant God, and my prayers are answered, and now I get to put you in jail.
I want to ask you if you think that some of the issues that were brought up in that story do contribute to these explosions of anger and protest. A lot of people look at the details of the shooting that involved a police officer and usually an African-American male, whether that person was armed or unarmed, they pick apart those details. But this underlying thing, is this a reality, you think?
Oh, absolutely, it's a reality, and it's very unfair. And we know this to be true because we're hearing about it. That's why there's a consent decree in Ferguson. They talked about it in the DOJ report about how officers conduct themselves one way in one part of town and another way in another part of town. And we know that to be true. It happens all over. It happens here in Los Angeles. Officers conduct themselves one way north of the Santa Monica Freeway and a different way south of the Santa Monica Freeway. And when you understand that a traffic infraction is something that is discretionary, that means an officer can give you a warning, right? Far more warnings, I would beg to argue, are given in the more affluent areas. I'll give you a warning, slow down, take it easy.
So in the places where people can pay,
absolutely,
you get a warning. In the places where people really, really have a hard time paying, even a $50 ticket, you give them a ticket.
And I don't know that there are any $50 tickets anymore, right? That's another thing. Yeah. Tickets are very expensive. And so, again, if you're given a ticket and it's $200-$300 and you're already having a hard time feeding yourself and you have to make a decision, do I buy groceries or do I pay a ticket? It's a no-brainer, right? And now you've got a warrant, and now it's not $250, now it's $1,500.
I want to ask you this, though, because I did speak to a mayor. He happens to be a black mayor. He's told me, I went to jail as a young person. And guess what I learned? Have your car fixed. Don't speed. Don't go through stop signs. Make sure you have your insurance. He goes, that taught me a lesson. And that's all that we're trying to do. I'm not going to tell our police officers to stop policing. Is that a fair reaction?
Well, it's certainly an educational tool, and that's what, police chiefs and mayors are supposed to say. They speak code talk, right? And so that's why he's saying that. But I can learn that same lesson if you give me a warning. I'm so appreciative because you've just saved me hundreds of dollars. I'll be very careful the next time I'm on this street. I'll be mindful of my speed, right? So the argument works both ways. And so you don't use that as a bullying tool, as an intimidation tool, the threat of being without money to take care of your family to compel someone to do what's right.
I want to ask you, how are we going to have this conversation come to some sort of consensus between police departments that may see things one way and the residents who see things completely a different way? And it's causing a lot of tension.
Well, see, I don't think it's the residents are seeing something a different way. That's their lived experience. That's their reality. And so police departments and police chiefs need to stop minimizing what we know to be true, what we know to experience day in and day out. If we admit that there's a problem, then we can have an honest dialogue about how to fix it.
Do the officers know there's a problem?
Absolutely, the officers know because they're part of it. Certainly.
Okay, so amongst themselves, there's talk about what's going on.
Absolutely, and the police chiefs know because remember, before he was a police chief, he was a police officer.
On the streets.
On the street, doing the same thing.
Thank you so much for having this really honest conversation. I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me.